All right, well, welcome everybody to episode 8.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go, baby.
We're gonna buy you that button eventually.
I need that button. Or do the DJ Khaled. So DJ Khaled on Instagram.
Who's that? I don't know these.
Oh man,
people.
you are not with the culture,
Wow.
and you're a part of this podcast.
You go to Overflow, right?
You know, of course. He is fibbing. He knows who DJ Khaled is.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me about an artist that we brought up here. So you gotta be on it, man. This stuff matters.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. They were like, they were like, hey, I would like to know more about
let's
Toby
expose them.
Nwigwe.
Ah.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
All right.
So like when you out here,
you should. I mean, you gotta be careful.
just
Well, maybe
he's
if
great. He's
you know,
great. I think everyone
would
should
share
have at
information.
least a song, an encouraging song by him in their playlist.
so I would like to go just 3 quick seconds.
Listen, all I was trying to say is we're not. Hold up.
No,
Let me
we
finish
gotta
my
do it.
thought. Let me finish my thought.
Finish your thought.
If we can't afford the little setup to where I can, have the audio bits, we just do the DJ Khaled when he's in the studio. He's got this blowhorn, and he when he's like listening to the song like da, 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 da.
Check this out.
It's the funniest thing, man. That
is-
guy, if you do not follow him on
his
Instagram,
Instagram is amazing.
or Snapchat, when he gets on his jet ski, I can't wait for summertime because he gets on his jet skis, he'll run from the cops, or like he'll get stopped from the cops, and like he's just like, all right, I'm here.
He's a
All right,
weirdo.
so what were you
I
going
love
to say?
it.
Thank you for letting me finish
No,
my
no.
thought.
I think I just feeling it in this moment, man. Like I think we need to talk about, at least list off, top 3 favorite artists right now.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean?
So
Like-
are we talking about any type of music, or do we want to focus in on one genre,
okay.
right? Because that's difficult. I've got artists that are from all over the genre, all over
the genre.
So what if we figure out like maybe top 3 that we're listening to right now?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like who's your and so you can go wherever, right? Whatever,
Wow.
you just pick whatever your top 3 is right now.
Man. Okay, so I've got
I gotta-
2. Let
let
me
me
You guys
pop open
better
my
start.
Spotify.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
mine's gonna be uninteresting. I'll tell you that.
Well, then maybe you should go first.
Listen. Oh man. That's a great question. You're kind of cheating. I feel like you're kind of
How am I cheating?
You got to go off
You
the,
could've had
off
your
the
phone.
dome. I
Okay.
can't. I'm using
Oh,
my
that's-
phone to
That's right.
to record.
Yeah, that's-
my phone right now.
I feel bad for you, brother.
Somebody hand me their phone. Timmy.
Timmy.
There's
Timmy,
literally
give me
no
your
one.
phone.
I'm talking to no one.
It's sad.
Okay, so I'm gonna go. Oh, my bad.
It's getting real out here. You know what I'm saying?
So let's go down the row. I'll do one. You'll do one.
Okay.
Dan, and we'll kind of list them off that way.
And you got to tell the genre.
Okay, so this first artist, I know him personally, and I don't say this because I know
here
him
we go.
personally.
Oh man,
But
he just flexed on us.
Yeah.
man, if you guys have ever heard of, I don't know, maybe you haven't. He's a not folk. He's kind of a soulful, folky.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you knew him.
Oh man, it's just his style.
Oh,
So
is that the guy
Jake Isaac.
Yeah, he's dope. He's
So
dope.
Jake Isaac, he is, he's from like the London, Britain area, and man, his style is very much like very real, very like love songs with like really cool rhythm, and he's a Christian, but his music is just kind of songwriting of him. He even went on tour as an opening act with Elton John about, I don't know, a few years
big
ago.
time.
So that's big time. I mean,
Yeah.
he lives over in the London area. So that's my first one, Jake Isaac.
All right.
And I'll put some of his info, if I remember, I'll put some of his info down on like the description
yeah.
so that you guys can find his Spotify and his album.
Dope.
And that might be the only one that I'll plug, just because
Did your
I-
best-
I've
my
heard
other artists might be interesting. So.
So I've heard him. He let me listen to him, and his style is stuff that I like. I love that soulful kind of angst. Like it's really good. Like I really enjoy. Yeah, he's dope, man.
Yeah.
Like he tried to FaceTime him too. and it didn't work.
It
So,
didn't work. Well,
I don't
listen,
know
there-
how
there's
much
a-
you know him,
There's
man.
a
I
time
was like-
difference. There's a time
Yeah,
difference.
he is in
He
London.
was
He
was
is in London.
sleeping probably
Yeah.
when I FaceTimed. But he did reply back. He did reply back.
Mine right now, one of mine in the top 3 is a gospel artist because I'm a Christian, you know. It's Pastor Mike McClure Jr. He's just got these really dope gospel songs that are out right now. So I've been bumping them in the car lately. Loving him. Yeah. What you got?
Cool. I mean, I mostly listen to worship music at this point, so I'd say
Wow.
Upper Room.
Boring.
I told you it'd be boring.
No, just
Yeah, Upper Room's probably my go-to, like for the past, I don't know, 6 months or year or so. I like the kind of spontaneous, free-flowing style where it's just kind of like prayer room, kind of just jamming, just going wherever.
Yeah, 90s rap is kind of like that. You should listen to some 90s rap.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I'll do that. Yeah.
Spontaneous.
I said a hip. A hip.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Upper Room, love Upper Room.
Yeah.
Oh man,
No, they're dope.
We do some of their songs here at church, and man, they're great. They definitely have a gifting to write some incredible music that points to the Father. Insert
Interesting.
spiritual moment. All right, now my second artist. This one's, and you only because you said some of the artists that we've recently been listening more of, and I'm not going to say that this next artist is my favorite artist at all, but I appreciate
Just who's on your
her
list?
music
Yeah.
and her writing and her performance, and she is actually back on tour. Some of y'all might know where I'm headed, but she's actually back on tour after a pretty big hiatus of touring, and she is doing a tour where it's like a 3-hour show. My wife is going in Chicago, and she's going through all of her repertoire,
Okay.
from like album 1 to the very end, and that is Taylor Swift. That's right. I said it.
Wow.
I said it.
Wow. Okay.
That's right. I said it. Taylor Swift, T Swift.
That's your top.
That's
Three.
That's a
Shameful.
top one that I've been listening to only because my wife will not stop playing her.
So
And
now
that's-
you're pulling it back. And
I
it's
am.
not really you.
Well, I said it from
Okay.
the beginning. She is not like a favorite artist, but I definitely the top 3 artists that I've been listening to right now. She is one of them, and it's because my wife will not stop playing her because she's getting ready to go to her concert, so she's trying to get all the songs and get in the mood. But I've grown to appreciate her music and her writing.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So mine is WizKid.
Wiz
Thames.
Kid.
I feel it calling.
Yes, okay, I like that guy.
Essence. Yeah. It's an African group. I love the vibe.
Thames,
That's
Thames is a vibe.
Yeah, man, it's dope. So
Man.
yeah, Thames and
Dan, you gotta
WizKid.
come.
I'll
You gotta
take your
come with
word
the
for
heat.
it.
Your next
You know what I'm
selection
saying?
has to
So-
be.
Well, here's the thing, man. All good things come from God.
yes,
So
That's
you
good.
know,
It's true.
sometimes you gotta break out the genre, man. What you got?
Sometimes you gotta let me be me.
Yeah.
Hey,
You know,
Whether they
all
give-
Try to
I feel a spirit of offense.
listen. Whether they give
feel a
whether
spirit
they
of judgment.
whether
Hey.
they give glory to God or not, there will come a day where the Lord's gonna get the glory.
Yeah.
And whatever they thought that they were making that like glorified them, and oh no, the Lord's gonna be like, nah, that's I created that. I
Yeah.
created your talents. I gave you your giftings.
So that's my song.
So that's my song.
Yeah.
all of the money you received, your bank account is now negative.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
It's
And
deep.
you're going down to heaven.
What you got, man? What you got?
So I've got this really obscure, special artist that you guys don't know about because it's, just
Lost
really
my cap.
cutting edge.
Mumford and Sons.
That's probably true.
Don't steal my line. No,
I listen to
don't-
Mumford and Sons. They go hard.
No, I don't. No, say a guy named Josh Garrels, just another Christian guy. He's a little bit more singer-songwriter. I actually listened to him so much that I got burnt out on it, and then I just started coming
been
back to listening to it again.
I think at Austin's
Yeah, he was playing
it,
one or
and
two
I
of his
listened. Yeah,
songs.
man, it's dope, man. He redid this like old gospel thing, which is really really good actually.
Cool.
So yeah, Father I Stretch, I think it was
Cool.
called, yeah, or something like that.
Cool. And then my last one is a Christian gospel artist, Todd Delaney.
Ooh, love Todd
Todd
Delaney, bro.
Delaney.
Todd Delaney's so dope.
Amazing.
Yeah,
He won't fail.
yeah.
He won't fail.
Ooh, and he can
won't
sing.
leave me. He can sing. Yes.
He can sing, man.
Do you know him personally?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I don't think that I will ever be Christian enough to get to know him. He's just on a whole nother level. He's just on a whole. I don't know. Do you know?
You feel like you're more likely to know Taylor Swift.
No. I feel like no local guys.
Yeah, man. Come on.
Yeah, maybe T Swift.
I mean, you do have a friend that literally toured with Elton John. I mean, let's be honest now. You could do it. I believe it.
Probably.
So my last person is that I listen to is in the rotation right now.
Okay.
Is an oldie but goodie, M. Jack. Now, please don't at me.
I don't even know who that is.
Michael Jackson.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Don't at me.
M Jack. I've never heard it said
I've
like
never
that.
heard that.
Don't at me. I have his off the wall like
Listen,
record.
I'm not.
And I played on my record player.
I'm not
and
offended.
it's just,
I mean,
don't at me.
I think
It's like-
all of what we've said means nothing now. MJ is.
That's
Here's a question. Did you, like, as a kid, did you grow up listening to his music, or was it later in life you're like, oh,
well, yeah,
I
no. As a
appreciate
kid,
this, or-
I grew up listening to his music, and then like growing up, like he was in that because I'm in that age group where he was really getting to like the Michael Jackson space, right? Like so, like I like growing up, we were that's the part where he moved over. So Off the Wall was like the original. Like I just left the Jackson 5 and stuff like that, and I'm doing my solo albums and stuff like that. But like now it's like he's the established, like the Thriller album and stuff like that. So like around that, like when he's making that move, and so yeah, man, like that's bro. I am just a fan. I've been a fan since I was a kid. Fun fact real quick. We're going to get to some real stuff, guys. But like, fun fact, I once almost broke my toe trying to do the Michael Jackson leg kick. I was just like, and I hit something. I was like,
didn't you?
And
Well,
I iced my toes.
did you hit the MJ screen?
I did. So I was a fan, man, as a kid.
Nice.
All right, last one.
All right, last one. This is just one that I've been playing on repeat a lot, just really like one album, but Jeremy Riddle, who came out of Bethel Music. I don't know
Yeah.
if he's still attached with them or not, but been listening to one of his albums just a lot the past few months.
So this is what I've learned, right? Pastor Dan is more spiritual than you and me. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, he loves Jesus
That's
more
okay,
than us.
man.
And
That's okay.
whatever, man.
There's space
I would
in
like
the
to
kingdom
say
even
somebody's
for
got
us.
to.
He was for us.
Somebody's got to love Jesus on this day. All right, man. So I think like one of the things that's really cool when we think about these stories and stuff is like these people get to live out their passion as their calling, right? And I thought, man, your message was just really dope. As you walked out, what does it look like, right, to answer that question of like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah.
What do I do with my life? So like, maybe just like walk us through some big ideas, some areas that maybe you wanted, wish that we could explore, and then we'll just jump off from there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the
That's
message,
what we call a segue, people.
in the message, I connected a lot to my own story of walking through life, thinking I'm going to do one thing. Like, surely this is the thing that I'm called to do. That God has set aside for me because I was passionate about it. It seemed to fit giftings or whatever. But then God, so often like He redirects us. We don't do the thing we want, and then we're left with that question of like, why am I even here? Like, this question of purpose is almost like the meaning of life question.
Yeah.
Like, why am I even alive? Like, what's the point of my existence? Surely God has some specific plan for me. And a lot of times I feel like if I don't know what that is, I just feel like hopeless and my life feels chaotic and in despair. So we're just really walking through like some really practical stuff of how can you discern like that unique, special way that God's created you and where you might fit in his family and his kingdom. But then also just the big picture of, and what if you don't figure all that stuff out? Like, do you have to in the first place? Because we're not all going to be like a singer or a musician or an artist so gifted that it's clear to the entire world this is what they're here for, is to express God's creativity in this way. Most of us are working like a job that we're like, I could work this job or I could work 20 other jobs, and none of them necessarily make me feel like this is why God created me, was to crunch spreadsheets, in the office. So I think that's, and I had that experience of like doing ministry and feeling like, oh, this is obviously what I'm supposed to do. And then being in a business setting for 7 years and like having to wrestle through, okay, my job is not making me feel like I've answered the meaning of life. So how do I answer that question? So those are some of the big thoughts there. But I'd love to hear just a little bit from you guys. Like, how have you kind of walked through some of that journey of like, what's the point of my existence? Who am I? What has God called me to do? Like, are there any like big moments in your story where God spoke about any of that stuff or how you came to those conclusions?
That's good. Yeah, I've definitely gone through that. Definitely gone through many moments of disappointment, many moments of just uncertainty, like lack of clarity. From a young age, I've always been interested in, like, drawn to music and rhythm, and my parents weren't musicians or anything like that, but every time, going to church, being a young kid, I was always drawn to music. And then later in life, high school, college area, I felt like the Lord was making it more clear, or maybe I was finally listening to his voice more, that it was more clear to me that I was like most, if not my entire life, was going to, like, worship was going to be a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And then growing up in the culture and just the group that I grew up in, like being on staff at a church as a musical director, something like that, it really wasn't a thing. And if it was like these mega churches like that. Most churches, I would say, that are smaller in size have a lot of people that just serve and pro bono, like you don't get paid. So like that was also a thing that I didn't know that was an avenue. So that led me to in school look for things that like interested me. So I really love fixing things. I love tinkering with things. I love taking things apart and seeing how they fix or see how they work, and then see if I can fix them. I did a lot of mechanic stuff with my dad growing up. So I thought, okay, maybe like this is an area that I can go towards. And this is where it gets funny that, I, for the first 2 years or so, getting my my associates and all that stuff, I was focused on engineering, not fully knowing that the level of engineering that I was focused towards was not going to be an area where I'm going to be fixing things. It's more of like you're designing or you're creating something. Like if I want to fix this bridge, I would be focused more on like building the structure of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I want to fix the bridge, and
I want to put the
I want to put the
screws in the
bolts
thing.
No, like so. A friend of mine at the time said, "Dude, that's not at all what the engineering that you're wanting to focus is." So it's like 2 years, and you're like, "Oh no, I focused so much energy. What is going on?" And in that time, I just felt back to the clarity. Maybe I was listening more of the voice of the Lord. I felt clarity, and God just began opening doors. When I, and this is really important, when I fully received the calling that he had on my life, when I fully saw that the giftings that he had placed in me, being musically inclined, being rhythmic, was giftings that I knew immediately that I was supposed to use for God's glory and to bring light to his name. And in that, when I began to accept that, that's when the Lord began to open doors and avenues of like, oh wow, like this church is willing to bring me on staff for such and such. So now, years later, that's my main ministry, my main stream of income. But it really just came down to me fully accepting and hearing the Lord's voice, like, oh, okay, this like makes sense. But I went through many years of like, man, I'm gonna be broke. I'm disappointing my parents. I'm disappointing people. I'm seeing like friends of mine that are like moving ahead and like they're 2 years younger than me and like making six figures. I'm like, what is going on? Am I really like? So, anyways.
Yeah, man. So many parallels. I think in your story. I think in that idea of finding purpose. I think for me, you play sports and you're, okay at it, and people start, saying, hey, man, maybe you can do something or whatever, even though like that reality is so, you know what I mean? Like it's the less than 1% that really get to do that stuff, and it's your mom telling you and your dad telling you like, hey man, you're gonna be the greatest, the
lies,
and it's just like, oh man, and then like there's that shift, right, which I think happens, which happened to me, and then like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna follow Jesus, and I'm gonna do this thing well, and I think I really resonated with your illustrations of like, okay, I'm here now. But like, it doesn't look like what it is that God you've called me to do, right? And there's seasons of full-time ministries and seasons of part-time ministry. Yeah. And I can just remember really one of the biggest shaping moments for me was I think I saw it like my friends were like getting married and they're having babies, and I had been on this path of ministry ever since God called me to do it. And like, I am just like, man, Lord, like, what is going on? And then I'm seeing these other people, which are just out here living crazy lives. And it just seems like God's blessing them. And I love that part in your story. It's just like, and I remember I was driving my mom someplace, and it was like snowing really bad. And I literally drove into a snow embankment. Because I got so upset, I just started weeping, right? And my mom's like, oh, wait, you know what I'm saying? Calm down there. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like weeping because I was like, why, like, am I going through this?
Yeah.
And like, just this moment of like, dude, like, God was just like, I feel like he's left me to like, die out here. And like and why? Because like I decided to follow him. I'm working 3 jobs and getting paid pennies at this church, and like I can't even work full time, but I'm still giving up. And my friends, which are living crazy lifestyles, are just getting rewarded.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom. I think that God really used my mom, and I'm so appreciative. She's such an amazing woman of God. Like, I remember her just telling me that, like, man, your story is your story. Just be faithful.
Yeah.
I think so often in this conversation of purpose and everything, it's really about how can I get to what I want at my pace.
Absolutely.
It's about like holding on to this idea of what you think you should be doing or who you think you should be. And it has nothing to do with like God's plan or whatever. And so, some of the coolest and most holy people are people which are, man, don't get the jet, don't get to do all that stuff, but there's a deep contentment in their life. And they're not rich or anything like that, working jobs that, some people might think are insignificant, but they just do it well. And they're passionate. And the only people that recognize them are the people which are their friends or their families, and they just have joy in their heart. And they come into church and they talk to you and you're just like, how do I get there? Because this is what I know, right? The majority of people which are living their dream in Hollywood, their marriages usually end up in divorce. We think about people like Jim Carrey or whatever, which is like, this is this great comedian, man. But but look at his like Twitter feeds and stuff. Like he's deep angst, like you know, I and other comedians which are like world famous, which have taken their lives because like they're like battling something. So so purpose. I think maybe just continue on your idea. Like I think we have to move it from what we do,
Sure.
right, to who we are. And I appreciate. I think you were talking a little bit about that, but like it has to, because if it's just about what we do, there's a bunch of people which are living their dream and they're doing the thing that they hope for, but they're still unhappy and they're still asking that question of like, what is my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and then I think even like maybe even scarier than that is the person who is walking out this specific calling and they're like, and I love it and this totally satisfies me. And so they're not going back deeper for the relationship aspect with God of like, hey, I'm a son or a daughter before a heavenly Father. Like I was created for relationship and not a job title. So, like that's one of the things that stood out to me as I was like praying through the message. Like there's some really beautiful passages in Scripture about how God created us. And it's just very like loving, thoughtful, intentional, unique, creative. But in all that like creating, it wasn't so that we could like have the ministry career or this certain like gifting or skill set. It was so that we could know him forever in relationship. There's this I think this is in the Anglican Church. They've got, you know, this catechism, this like teaching of doctrine that they go through. It's called the Westminster Shorter Catechism that comes to mind. And the very first question is, what is the chief end or the chief purpose of mankind?
Yep.
And the answer that they give to that is to glorify God and enjoy him forever.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like find out, you know, get your personality test done and your gift and skill test done and then go do some great work for God. Like your chief purpose is to glorify him and enjoy him forever. And if anyone's ever read John Piper's book, Desiring God, he tweaks that a little and he says that we glorify God by enjoying him forever.
Was it what's that line? I'm most satisfied. What is
it's
that?
God is most glorified
by
in us when we are most satisfied in him.
In him, yeah.
Yeah,
man. The only Piper line that I know. No, I'm joking. I like.
So for those people that might be watching or listening, and this question is sort of a blend of what you said and what you said, Dan. Those people that are out there that are maybe in a place where they're like content where they're at, where,
sure.
But like there's more for their life, but they might not know that. So how can these people get to a place where they're like, oh wow, there's more purpose in my life than what I'm currently doing now? How do they get to a point where they're realizing that? Is it being a Christian? Is it praying to God? Like, how do they do that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
What are ways that they could maybe just,
Let me ask you just to like make sure I understand your question. So you're talking about someone who's like, they're kind of content, but they're not necessarily living out their calling, or they're content, but they're at a surface place and they need to go deeper.
I think yes to both. I mean, there might be people out there that are believers and aren't believers that might, there's some that might believe like, oh, like there's a calling in my life and I know that because I follow Jesus. Or there might be people out there that are like, what the heck are you talking about? A calling in my life? What is that? What does that even mean? So it might be like a 2-part question and maybe both of y'all can sort of answer that.
Yeah, I would just jump in real quick and just saying that I think we're using the word calling and purpose interchangeably, right? And so like, and
let's unpack that a little bit too.
And no, and I think it is. I think you can, because I think that's what it is. Ultimately, the calling is what is the purpose that God has put you on the planet for, right? And that's the reason why we can move interchangeably in that space when we're talking about it, because it's deeper, right? So like even when you were saying, it's like you would sing music and glorify God and leading people in the church, right? If you were paid or if you were not paid.
Correct.
You get the privilege of being paid
right.
to do it,
yep.
right? So then it is a job, right?
Yeah.
So then people misconstrue like, well, Joel, like he found his purpose. He gets to be a worship leader. It's beyond that. My purpose is to glorify God, to your point, right? And I get to do it by using the gifts that God has put inside me because he has purposed me, or I always love it. You always talk about this, like, this is my call.
Yeah.
And you even say this sometimes, you're like, my call is not, it's not specific to any one place, right? Like God can call you tomorrow to California or to whatever, but it's to somewhere warm. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. It's about to get real Pentecostal.
Cali, I'm coming.
Cali, yes, I feel it. That was a prophecy. But like your purpose will never leave you.
Correct.
Right?
It'll come with me
It'll come
everywhere
with
I
you.
go.
Yeah. And even if you say like, hey, in this season, like my God, like I'm going to get to do like, you know, a coffee shop, and I'm starting a coffee shop from the thing or whatever. Like the owner of Starbucks is like now said like, Joel, here's your, you know, you get to own all of Starbucks, you know, make it yours, right? But like your purpose, your purpose still, because I also know that coffee is something that you're really passionate about as well. But like your purpose is still like, that's not going to leave you. Correct. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so like, I think like just in this conversation, as you get to Joel's question, which I think is really good. I just want to make sure that we know, because I think we're using churchy language when we say calling. Yeah. And so for the people that don't know that purpose and calling really means the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think to tackle some of the very practical side of that question, I think some of us don't know how to analyze what am I really gifted at, or what's kind of some of the unique traits that God has given me. And that's where, like, I know in my life, having other people who could speak into that. Yeah. So having like mentors, really close friends, pastors, spiritual directors, counselors, other people who could help me see like, man, you really seem to come alive when you get to do this kind of thing. Yeah. Or you really seem to excel, or your personality really fits over here. And so that's been a big thing for me, and not just like vocational ministry, but in all kinds of different areas where other people help me see the gifts of God on my life. Because sometimes we really wish it was one thing, and so we tend to focus on, this is what I would like to be, and we miss some of the other like cool things God could be doing. Or we just, we're just kind of like have blinders sometimes. So I think that's one big thing. Yeah, that's really good, Dan. Anyone looking to try and discern that, I would say find people who know you, especially if they're spiritually mature, and have them kind of like speak into and assess where you might be gifted and called, and then try some stuff too. Yeah, for sure. Because there's nothing wrong with just like getting your feet out wet in the water and just trying, especially if you have the means to like make a little, I don't know, if you're younger, you could like switch degrees, or you could get involved here or there or do this or that. Making a career change needs a little bit more discernment, but if you're able to like, test some things out and see, does God seem to be breathing on this thing? And there's some very spiritual, imagery, but does it seem to work? Sure, do I seem to like it and have some success? So that's just, very practical tip right there.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, I love that point in the sermon when you talked about just like, I think it's just tapping into the people around you. I think, man, we just make this thing so hard sometimes, because like, for me, I look back at my life and I see where I landed, and even in moments when I was running away from it, it was always there. Like it was Sunday school teachers were just like, man, you ask really good questions. Or Sunday school teachers were like, Elijah, do you know the answer to that? Because I don't know the answer. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you're my teacher,
That's so good.
Stuff like that, where like I was passionate about it, or I just happened to be the guy on the football team that they asked to pray for all the time. Or I happened to be the guy that they wanted to give the speech at the banquet, about God or whatever. And like on and on and on. Here are these doors that just continue to open up. And everyone else is seeing it, and we're fighting. And I just think the ability just to also just humble ourselves. I think there's a sense of, in this hyper individualistic society that is the West, there's this push to say that we have to figure out by ourselves, and if we don't do it, then somehow like it can't be correct. And it's just like, well, like in ancient times, man, the community came around you. They
Yeah.
affirmed and like what God was doing in your life. And I just think like, yeah, man, it's just always so important just to be around people to say like, man, I know you got like this doctorate degree in this thing, but maybe God ain't calling you to be a professor. Maybe he's calling you to be a practitioner or the person who bridges the academic and people on this side of things,
Yeah.
so that they can understand it better. Like that's the stuff where like community comes in, So anyways, I appreciate
That's
that
great. I
point.
think there's a lot of people walking in like what they're really good at without even knowing it. Just like what your friend, like when you were sharing in your sermon that you reached out to your friend who was an atheist,
Yeah.
and you said, "Dude, I think I'm called to be a pastor. I think that my life's work will be being a pastor." And he just says, "Duh." Like,
I love that.
Like there's so
I
many people
love
around
that.
you. So like for anyone who's out there watching, just be encouraged and surround yourself with people that are gonna see the best in you, but that are also gonna let you know like, hey, yeah, what you're doing is in line with what I feel like you're really good at. Or if you're, there might be other people that might be like, no, you've always been really good at like
Yeah.
numbers. You've always been really good at like having vision or being very strategic. You should probably try this, and that might get you where you're trying to get to.
I just want to say real quick, I want to also just speak to Joel, I just really appreciate you saying this, because like there's multiple people which are listening. We don't know, right? Like so many folks get a chance to jump in on our little thing. Like we started off for sure, just trying to be a resource for our folks in the church. But we also know that there's folks which don't believe Jesus, that they get to come to our church and maybe listen to this, or maybe somehow it just is reaching your ears. I would like to say and really hit home this point that like, man, God knows you. I think you hit in a sermon just about that idea of like, he knows the number of hairs on your head. Like he created you. The Bible says that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And you've been created for good works.
Yeah.
Here's another way of saying it. You've been created for your purpose, your calling. And I think that it's just made more beautiful when you understand that you're not in it by yourself, but you have a creator who not only created you for that thing, but is actually most satisfied when you live it out.
Yeah.
Right? So like the owner of Apple, when he gets an iPhone, if it doesn't work, and if Steve Jobs, I'm sure at the time, and if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, he probably was like, what the heck is going on? But like he's most satisfied when it's operating to its fullest capacity. And I think the only way that we get there, this is my belief as a follower of Jesus, is that when we allow the creator, the one who made us, fashioned us, cares deeply about us, wants to see us flourish at our optimum peak, is that when we give our lives to him and just say, okay, God, like you've made me for these good works, well then show me. So like, yes, it is the people around us, and it's also going to the creator. I got a chance to talk really quick with my brother today, and he was just like, he's been in this place where he's just been discerning, and he's praying and he's taking time, and I was just like so proud of him, because he's saying like, man, I know God's called me to something specific, and I see here's these areas that God's been opening the doors for. So I think I want to make sure. So he's taking some like sacred time and space, and he's going to really focus in and just saying, okay, God, lead me. And I just think that's when purpose takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's great. And the imagery that comes to mind for me is, God identifies so much as a father throughout Scripture. And that idea that, he's unique. Like I'm a father, but I didn't get to design James and Emma and decide what their unique personality is going to be, what they're going to like and dislike. Even the sound of our voice, God dictated that. So like he's a father, but also a father who had such intentional plan. Like his desire, like you said, is to see us flourish, to see us, it's his joy. His joy, I think, is made full. And there's kind of reference to that in John 15, when we bear much fruit, not because he just needs more worker bees, but because he loves seeing his children live out this dream he had in his mind. Like when he made Joel and he's like, here's the special things I have in my heart about Joel. And then Joel lives them out. I think that makes his heart so happy to see that. And so, yeah, to me, those things are like so connected.
And just as we land the plane, what I wanted to make sure that also I really appreciate about your sermon is this is also a really big reason why we need to stay in your lane, like you were saying, because for all those reasons, like stay in your lane, like we're always trying to run other people's races, right? We want to be like them, and so I mean I need this because sometimes I look over at one of my really good friends, man, and we have a little rivalry that's really one-sided. It's me. He's always gracious to me, and I am always like, I want to do bigger things. They're laughing because they know. He
doesn't even know you.
He doesn't even know. He's just like, man. But I'm always like, man, like, all right, how can I do this? How can I do what he's doing? How can I do it better? And it's like, no, God created my friend for that thing and the place where he's at right now. And he has a mission and a call and his purpose and he's living it out. And like where I am is perfect for me. Stay in your lane, Elijah.
Just
enjoy what's happening here and now, right?
Right.
So
that's great. That's great, man. Thank you for sharing that. Stay in your lane, people. Surround yourself with people that are going to speak life into you and see the best in you. Any closing thoughts, Pastor Dan?
I think I have one that's just been bouncing around for a little bit here, but thinking of like two guys in the Bible who had huge callings, King David and Moses, and both of them, it took them a long time to get to the point where they actually walked out this like big picture life calling. Their calling was actually so special. It took years of character refinement, like in the proverbial or literal wilderness of God trying and testing them through suffering. So I think sometimes we're in that place. You're like, God, when are you ever going to use me? When am I ever going to get to fulfill these dreams in my heart? And it just feels like the door's never quite open. And sometimes like that's right where he wants you to be, where you're just learning to lean on him and to trust him in those dry and difficult seasons, because he's forming you on the inside to prepare you so that you can actually walk out. It says about Moses that he killed that Egyptian, then he's in the desert for 40 years just as a shepherd, like nobody knows him. But it says in the book of Numbers that when God calls him to be the deliverer, that he was the most humble man on the face of the planet. I think that's Numbers 12:3.
Yeah.
So to have that call, God had to bring him through that process of humility. So that's just also encouragement. We're all at different places with this thing. It's all about God forming us in different ways, but if it's taking you longer than you want, just trust that God's still walking it out with you.
No, that's good.
And just wait on him.
It's great.
That's it, man.
See, if I had it, I would have.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Well, man, this is great. We'll see y'all next time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and comment down below. If you've got anything that stood out to you.
Yeah.
And Elijah, I feel like you want to say one more thing?
No, man. I was going to just say follow me on Zynga, Instagram, Pinterest.
Wow. Yeah, cut his mic. Yeah.
Get that button.
My Pinterest is dope.
You're done. Thank you, guys.